pleased to be able to have Josh Fox, Emmy Award-winning director, incredible person, environmentalist, and he has agreed to show trailers of his 2 coming films, The Welcome Table, about climate refugees, and a film on long COVID, which he has experienced firsthand. And of course, he has his banjo as well. So please welcome Josh Fox.
Thank you so much, Jane. And I don't know, but it's probably true that this is the only banjo that has Bernie Sanders' signature on it. Maybe he's signed others, but I think there's a future for that. I'm going to show pieces of 2 films. One is actually a performance that I'm opening in like 2 weeks in New York City. So I'll do a little of a snippet, an abridged version of that. That's called The Edge of Nature. We're going to watch that trailer first, and then we'll talk a little bit about The Welcome Table. If you can hit the first video.
To tell you exactly how I arrived at this bank and shoal of time, I have to go way back to a time that I can't hardly remember. 2019. By 2019, over 70% of all wildlife on the planet had disappeared, burned, flooded, or paved over. In 2019, the International Panel on Climate Change announced that we had only 11 years left to change everything. Climate emissions were through the roof and increasing. We were a mere decade away from a completely unlivable future. We were probably being burned out by fire or flooded out by megastorms. Everywhere was on fire. Not just us, too. Australia, Europe, even Malibu was on fire. And just when we all thought things couldn't possibly get any worse, this little bugger was born. And just as the decade turned, in January of 2020, I got it. But oh, the virus had ripped through my brain. It mixed and matched synapses in ways that didn't seem to go together. I had brain fog. The next word struggling from thought to lips, stuck inside, stuttering. Headaches came from out of nowhere.
Long COVID has left thousands with a laundry list of sometimes debilitating symptoms.
Neurological attacks where I could not stop blinking. The blinking lights, the sirens, the incessant prefrontal strobe of doom scrolling made it all so much worse. So I went off to the woods to live deliberately, away from the Wi-Fi and the cell phone signal, away from the noise and the violence that made the fog in my brain worse. One room, no cell phone signal, and no one around. It's like nature told all of us, all of humanity, go to your room and think about what you've done. What have we done? How can we heal now?
So I went off to the woods, Thoreau style, with enough time to actually read the book. And I went out there to heal. And I discovered that something kind of, in the midst of all of our grief and in the midst of all of our trauma, something weird and miraculous was happening. The planet was healing. All of our industrial processes were shutting down. It was a period that scientists would later come to call the anthropause, the pause of human beings. I like to think of it as the industrial pause. A lot of things happened during that time. You could see the stars again. Rivers ran cleaner and clearer than ever before. Bird song reclaimed its former complexity. Birds discovered vocabulary that they couldn't use when it was so noisy. And our emissions actually reduced for the only time in human history. That was the only time in human history that we've actually reduced emissions enough to stop climate change by about 10%. And I think we all have a genetic memory of that moment, like a tree ring, like something that was marked in our DNA that said we remember that moment in time. You know, the emissions actually went down. And in Wuhan, China, in the first cycles of the disease, COVID killed about 3,200 people. But it was estimated by Stanford University that the downturn in industrial pollution at the same time actually saved the lives of 75,000 people. Which prompts the question, what is the real pandemic? COVID or the fossil fuels that we love to burn and choke on? In fact, fossil fuels kill 10 million people every single year. And I'm not talking about climate change, just the pollution. 10 million people, 1 out of every 5 deaths. So I was on my healing journey just as the earth was experiencing something that it never had before in my lifetime. And I went out into the forest and I started to ask myself, what is nature? The forest was sick. I could see invasive species everywhere. And realizing that the forest is itself a colonial creation. In Pennsylvania, where I was, those woods had been clear cut by the colonists. And that landscape has never really rebounded. And it was not being managed by human beings. So I looked up the definition of the word nature. And as it turns out in the dictionary, it says all the processes on the planet Earth. It takes a village to tune a banjo, you know. All the processes of the planet Earth, including all the plants and all the animals, as opposed to human beings. The definition of nature is opposition to human being. It means that we have separated ourselves in Western civilization from the planet. Nature is just a word that is used to divide us from the land. In fact, other cultures don't use this word nature, that there is no such thing as nature, right? And what happens when we separate ourselves from the land? We become better than it, we can kill it, we can extract it, we can tame it, we can cause genocide on it. This country, these settlers killed 300 million beavers, 2 billion passenger pigeons, 500 million bison, causing the extinction of gray wolves and all of the beavers on the Northeast, made for fashionable hats for Europeans. And so I started to realize that separation was a fundamental component of the Native American genocide. That I went out into because the colonists defined those people as closer to nature. So I went out in the forest and I found one tree that had survived. It dwarfed all the others, the survivor tree. And I thought about my grandfather who had survived the Holocaust. And he got a tip in the middle of the night, and he left his village in Poland at midnight. He didn't wait till the next morning. The rest of the family did, and they all went to the gas chambers. He lost 9 brothers and sisters. My grandmother lost 6 brothers and sisters. Overall, about 100 family members. And I'm only here because he made that decision at midnight to leave right that moment. And that hypervigilance always being somewhere inside of me. We're a part of nature. So that's like a tiny bit of edge of nature. And we'll be performing this. I have a 12-member ensemble doing all the music with me from the film, and a lot of the music is from Pete Seeger. So we're doing that starting in New York in 2 weeks. It's a really great honor to show you that. I'm going to jump to next year's movie, because I really think it's important. It's in process right now. It's called The Welcome Table, and the trailer will explain itself.
Well, I want to see this beautiful city. Yes, I want to see that beautiful city. Well, I want to see that beautiful city. I'd like to see that beautiful city one of these days. One of these days, and I want to sit at the welcome table. Yeah, I want to sit at the welcome table. Well, I want to sit at the welcome table. I want to sit at the welcome table. See that beautiful city one of these days. Oh, one of these days. And I like to sing and never get tired. Well, I want to sing and never get tired. Yes, I want to sing and never get tired. I'd like to sing and never get tired. Sit at the welcome table. See that beautiful city one of these days. One of these days.
Every day, somewhere on Earth, someone makes the painful decision to leave their home and find safety. Climate change is here now. It's ravaging the planet. Extreme weather, storms, sea level rise, drought, famine, food insecurity, disease, landslides, fires, floods, forcing people to leave their homes and leave everything behind to try to find a safer place. The United Nations predicts between 200 million and 2 billion climate refugees will be forced to find new homes in the next several decades. Where are all of those people going to go? For the past 5 years, I've been tracking the story of climate refugees across the planet, from the Caribbean to fires in the west of the United States, to hurricanes in southern Louisiana, drought and famine and displacement in Kenya and Tanzania, to landslides in Brazil, to political displacement and the threat of extractive industry in Peru, moving entire cities in Bangladesh, and refugees washing the shores of southern Italy. And yet this crisis is still in its infancy. All across the world, governments are acknowledging this climate crisis, but they're not building aid stations or climate mitigation. They're building walls and detention camps. Governments are militarizing their borders, whipping up xenophobia, hatred, and racism. But with 200 million to 2 billion climate refugees, a militarization and incarceration policy looks like a Mad Max future. But a wall on its side can be a table, the welcome table. So, we're inviting all of the people in this film, the mutual aid workers and the refugees themselves from all over the world and all over the United States, to New Orleans, to sit at a single table together, the welcome table. We'll sit and tell each other stories and eat and heal. But that's not all. We're going to build that table 1,000 feet long. And we're going to invite the entire city of New Orleans to come and sit with us. It'll be an event like nothing that's ever happened before in history. Celebrating people, our differences, our cultures, celebrating what we have to teach each other. Right now we're raising funds to bring the climate refugees that are in this film to New Orleans and secure the necessary permits for the table and for a gathering of thousands to create a vision of the future where welcoming is stronger than hate, where food and celebration are stronger than violence and prisons. And we're going to make that a movie and put it on HBO. Can you be a part of it? Will you join us? Because when you have more than you need, you shouldn't build a higher wall. You should build a longer table. We're building that table. Be a part of it.
And I'm the train they call the city of New Orleans, and I'll be gone 500 miles.
So actually, we made that trailer before we did the table, and we did it in April. And I'm going to show you some slides of what happened. It was one of the most amazing things I've ever been a part of. So we met at the Music Box of Katrina detritus. The refugees and climate leaders came. We sang the welcome table song. That's John Boutte. And it was extraordinarily emotional to hear their stories in New Orleans, of course, a city that lost a lot from climate change and continues to be threatened. That's Purity Gakuo from Kenya and Delta K from Australia. And then we marched up the levee, the same levee that broke during Katrina, 1,000 people, with all the fanfare of New Orleans, all the second lines and the celebration. And John led the procession. And then 1,000 people sang the welcome table song. It was a sound like I've never heard in my life. It was a ball. And it was the largest climate action most likely in New Orleans history. You'll see an aerial shot in just a second because it's almost impossible to see the whole table other than from a drone. There's a piece of it. So it worked. It was an enormous, amazing thing that happened. And so when we make this movie, this is the symbol that I think is stronger than the symbol of the wall. The wall is just a symbol, right? The wall doesn't actually work, right? It's just there to create fear. It's there to tell you we don't want you, right? The table is the opposite symbol, The table says we have to get good at welcoming people, and the bottom line is with 1 billion climate refugees on the way, we have to get really, really, really good at welcoming people. And it turns out welcoming is really hard, right? You have to build houses, you have to have food, you have to have a very intense cultural conversation because a lot of these places have not spent the last 100 years fighting for women's rights and LGBTQ rights and democracy. So there is a very intense thing that isn't on the way. But, John and I, John Boutte, come from two traditions that sort of meet in the South, that of black activists and Jewish activists. And there's a weird meeting place, which is Moses. Moses kind of means a lot to Baptists in the South and to my people, and so, he sort of charged me, and John and I have been singing this song together. You're going to have to fill in for his part. And Pete Seeger revived this song. But, it's a song about Moses, and I'm reminded of, after the tribe got out of Egypt and crossed the Red Sea, and they were in the desert, and they were starving, and they were thirsty, and they couldn't go on to make it to the Promised Land. Moses hit a rock with his staff, and water gushed forth. And because he hit the rock and didn't just ask it for water, he was never allowed into the Promised Land. This was the Old Testament God, you know what I mean? And so you can't get to the Promised Land with violence. You can't. I think that's the message, I think it's a very important message to tell Benjamin Netanyahu and everyone. So this is a song about those armies of empire and those armies of violence. if I could, I surely would stand on the rock where Moses stood. Pharaoh's army got drowned in. Oh, Mary, don't you weep. You know what? Oh, Mary, don't you weep, don't mourn. Oh, Mary, don't you weep, don't mourn. Oh, Mary, don't you weep, don't mourn. Pharaoh's army got drowned in. Oh, Mary, don't you weep. Another couple climate change verses. One of these nights, about 12 o'clock, this whole world is gonna rock. Pharaoh's army got drowned in. You can do better than that. Oh, Mary, don't you weep. I want to hear it loud. Oh, Mary, don't you weep, don't mourn. Oh, Mary, don't you weep, don't mourn. Pharaoh's army got drowned in. Oh, Mary, don't you weep. God gave Noah the rainbow sign. Won't be water but fire next time. Pharaoh's army got drowned in. Oh, Mary, don't you weep. One last time. Oh, Mary, don't you weep, don't mourn. Oh, Mary, don't you weep, don't mourn. Pharaoh's army got drowned in. Oh, Mary, don't you weep. Thank you. Enjoy your lunch. The Welcome Table will be out in 2025 with HBO, and we're going to tour, as we've toured all of our films. The Gasland tours went to 600 cities, and that built the movement against fracking, town by town, place by place, organization by organization. And we built it across, and we banned fracking in the state of New York. We banned fracking in the state of Vermont, even though there isn't any gas here. They were just like, fuck it, we're going to do it too. And we banned fracking in a lot of places around the world, including France and half the countries in Europe and a lot of places, with those mobilizing tours. So we're going on tour with Edge of Nature this summer. If you want me to show up, I'm available. We're booking it now, actually, after our New York thing. And then Welcome Table will tour next year, and we're going to tour with the table. So I want to invite all of you to be at our table, because we need people to do that welcoming. In New Orleans, we had all the musicians, the luminaries, the singers, the preachers, the climate leaders come and welcome those people with speeches, with songs, with poems. And so we need your welcoming energy. I believe that welcoming can defeat the racism, and it can overcome that partisan divide. So look out for that table, and look out for the tours and the films. And come see us in New York, June 14th until the 30th. And then just see me at lunch, and if you want us to come to your barn or town or field or wherever, we'll show up, Thanks.